I don't remember the last time I've kept a pace count. I just don't remember. I think Stokermatic has the best freaking land nav videos out there. Basic land nav, a little bit about some advanced land nav. Learning to read your map, plot courses, pull up grids, that's always good. Identifying terrain, that's something everybody can always practice on no matter how good you think you are. And getting the theory down is always good, but I've noticed a lot of people are kind of caught up in the kind of linear training style, kind of like a flat range style of land nav. So guys go get their 100-meter pace count. Their pace count is perfect. You know, they can compass to cheek, shoot an azimuth. They can do freaking dead reckoning. They can, you know, hold their compass like this at the bezel ring and do that. Like when I did my EIB, it was in Kuwait, so I had zero terrain to associate with. So at night I did the bezel ring, and I just freaking walk like this for about 2 miles, point to point. They're out in the woods. They got gear on. That's awesome. You know, and they're shooting to a tree or a landmark, something that they can identify when they're closer to it. They'll go out there, they'll reshoot their azimuth, adjust from there. They got their pace count and all this. But think about your distances. Not once in combat operations did we actually perform land navigation that way. So it's a good way to train because you get to use all your equipment. This is a perishable skill. You've got to be pulling up grids. You got to be identifying terrain features. You got to be plotting courses like OAKOC, using the terrain to plan your mission, because you're not just going from point A to point B or to point C, all right? So those points are going to be like your step off or your line of departure from a fob or wherever you start, and you're going to have a checkpoint. And just that one little navigation to that checkpoint, you're going to have to use OAKOC and METTC and everything to get there and to plot that route without, you know, being discovered, getting your guys killed, giving your guys heat friggin' exhaustion because you didn't look at the terrain and now you're climbing 1,000 feet within a mile. And then you're going to have another checkpoint, right? So, you know, you're going to have multiple checkpoints till you get to whatever you're doing. Another base, a link up, your patrol base for the night, stuff like that. So it's good to see people doing this stuff and talking about it and practicing it. But I want you guys to think about this realistically. Look at your map before you go out and plot checkpoints to get to your endpoint, right? So you can do backwards planning. You can say, here's where we are, here's where we gotta be, how do we get there? And then you plan from the endpoint back. Maybe the terrain dictates that you have to plan from your line of departure or your step-off point. But you're going to have to use OAKOC, observation, avenues of approach, key terrain, obstacles, cover and concealment. You're going to have to use all that and METTC to actually plot that route. So now if you think about that, what does that do to the standard land nav practice of going out, doing this, you know, or walking like this? We're not doing that on a patrol. You might only have like 2 or 3 guys to freaking go out on your mission with. This isn't Big Army where we got a platoon or a squad plus of dudes going out. And if the point man gets taken out, well, boo-hoo, whatever. We got 1,000 more guys at the cop to backfill them. It doesn't work that way. At least in this conversation lately, you can't spare a dude, right? So you can't have Joe Snuffy, your brand new Minuteman guy out there walking point like this. That's not good. Well, from here, we've got an open field here, all right? So we're going to skirt this open field. We're going to freaking climb a little bit. We're going to flank this ridge line because you don't ever want to crest the hilltop and walk on top of it. Use the terrain to figure out where your checkpoints are going to be. And those checkpoints could be checkpoints to check in so your TOC can track you. You're going to use code words at that checkpoint. So it could just be your call sign and, I don't know, marshmallow or whatever you name your checkpoint. The checkpoint could also be a time where the terrain sucks and you realize, all right, well, if we walk any farther than that, we're dealing with heat casualties. Guys need breaks and stuff like this. Like, if you push your guys until you start to have heat casualties or people start to complain, that's already too late. Especially in heat, you've got to plan terrain and heat and stuff like that, you know, again, METTC, you've got a plan for breaks. You have to. I don't care if you're a hard charging badass. Not everybody is. I just did a hike a couple days ago. We had a dude almost go down as a freaking heat casualty, and it was pretty bad because he was okay. We took care of him when we figured it out. But if he would have gone down with heat stroke, we were like miles from. There was zero reception. My radio wasn't touching the people that should have been, and it would have been a long freaking jog for one of us to go back in the same heat on the same terrain. Put that shit into your training, put it into your SOP, and work on terrain association is probably your best friend, especially if you're in an area with any kind of terrain features like hills and stuff. I don't remember the last time I've kept a pace count. I just don't remember. All right, in Iraq, we got the Garmin E-Trex, like the original models. This was 05, 06. We weren't walking around like this, all right? We don't use those. I don't even use this thing to navigate. This is like a double check. You know, like, where am I? Okay, got it. The compass is bogus, you know, because it's digital. Friggin', you're not walking, navigating like this. Nobody uses this crap that way. What I have done for probably going on 20 years now is terrain association. We plot our stuff, we plot checkpoints, we use the terrain, and basically if you understand the map, if you've done your map reconnaissance, you understand OAKOC, METTC, and you just plan your route properly, as long as you get started the right way, you basically just follow the terrain. So look at the SEER challenge. Awesome training for everybody involved, but especially the contestants. Like they say every single time, yep, don't have a pace count. It doesn't exist. All right, because we're talking about, you know, 4,000 friggin' acres. All right, and we've got spurs. Like, we've got all the major terrain features, like all of them. All right, so it's like you come down a spur, you're down in a friggin' depression, you cut into a gulch, and then it's back up another spur. All right, so you'll drop 800 feet, climb up another 700, friggin' skirt a ridge line, climb down another gulch, climb back up another spur. And those guys, they're not using freaking pace counts. They give up on their pace count within like 10 minutes of walking because they're crawling. You're bending over going through this stuff. So nobody's going out there doing a flat range style 100-meter pace count check and crawling a little bit and then rolling over and then sliding. Like, nobody's doing that. Everybody's just freaking lollygagging, walking, well, 69 steps. Okay, I'm good to go. And so I think, again, it's good to practice all this stuff the basic way. If you're teaching somebody that just doesn't understand any of it, it's a good way to get people training. But if we're going to start to advance, all right, if we're going to start going from the crawl, walk, probably into the run phase, actually running missions, you got to work on just doing terrain association. And that all begins back at your mission planning.